Thank you for watching this video on the Overhead Products YouTube channel. This video is intended for mechanical contractors installing the Roberts-Gordon CoRayVac specialty fuel heating systems. In this video, you will learn how to properly install the SF heating system. If you have not already, please watch the shipment receive video so you are familiar with the parts we will be discussing in this video. Overhead Products will be supplying all the heating equipment and hanging material, but the contractor is responsible to supply several items as well. So please watch the shipment receive video as a precursor to this video. The submittal package will have the conceptual drawing showing the approximate layout of the system. Let's review a conceptual drawing of a basic CoRayVac SF heating system so you are familiar with the components before we begin the installation instruction. Please note that this video instruction would detail the pressure switch wiring to the pressure switch boxes located close to the control panel. In this conceptual layout, we show three individual systems. There are two burners with a vacuum pump in the center on each system in red. The combustion air comes in on the left side. Filter box and ductwork is shown in blue. There is side reflector on the two systems close to the walls, shown in orange. The pneumatic tubing is shown in light blue from the tap locations, one on each vacuum pump and one on the combustion air ductwork, to the pressure switch box located by the control panels. The first step of installation is hanging the Schedule 40 pipe. Start by identifying a clear path to run the burners to the vacuum pump. The 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe needs to grade down a ½ inch every 20 feet from the burner towards the vacuum pump. The length between burners is 31.5 feet minimum. 31.5 feet is the same length or distance as 1.5 lengths of Schedule 40 pipe. The Schedule 40 pipe is threaded and not welded in order to prevent welding overhead of shop personnel. This piping for the heat exchanger is not pressure tested and will only be under -3 inches water column. We want all the joints watertight, but not loose. Overhead Products supplies the high temp joint compound for every threaded joint on the system. A small amount of high temp compound goes a long way. Once the joints are screwed together watertight, wipe off the excess high temp compound. This will minimize the dripping when first firing the system. When the Schedule 40 pipe reaches the vacuum pump, it needs to be 4 to 5 inch short in order to accommodate the boot that is in place to absorb the vibration from the vacuum pump. The hangers are suspended from the building purlins. The hangers are attached via 3/8 eye bolts, spring hooks, and turnbuckles, along with the appropriate length of chain to hang the system at the desired height. If needed, you, the mechanical contractor, will provide unistrut for all bridging. Each 3/8 eye bolt is supplied along with 3 nuts and 2 washers. This is to ensure that 2 nuts on top and 1 below the purlin are installed on each 3/8 eye bolt to suspend the Schedule 40 pipe. Hangers have a maximum spacing of 7 feet, which can be hung when going with the purlins at 7-foot intervals. Hanging the pipe perpendicular to the purlins is usually every 5 to 5.5 feet, as that is the normal spacing of the purlins. There is a point of suspension on the combustion chamber that has an eyelet for hanging the combustion chamber as well. You will have to remove this hanger on the combustion chamber in order to place the reflector with hole over the eye on the combustion chamber, and this will require a little cutting to fit over the cast iron combustion chamber. Once the reflector is over the combustion chamber, the hanger and burner can be installed with the gasket and the 2 cap screws with washers that came with the combustion chamber. When installing the reflectors, use gloves to keep fingerprints off the reflectors. The first overlap past each burner is an expansion joint. This overlap should have 1 foot overlap on top of the next reflector, with a reflector support in the middle of the overlap with loose screws in the reflector support and no screws in the reflector. All other overlaps of the reflector should be 6 inches in length and have 4 number 8 zip screws securing the reflectors. In between all hangers, there will be a reflector support with tight screws in the reflector support. This is shown in the conceptual drawing provided in the submittal. When installing reflectors, they must alternate top and bottom. Using a C-clip vice grip on both sides of the reflector will ensure a straight run of reflector before you screw them, also using the support to keep them level. End caps are installed at the end of all open reflector ends. Joint pieces and end caps are used to make 90-degree turns with the reflector, and joint pieces are used for T's as well. Side reflectors are installed with 2 Z-clips and 2 side extension supports per reflector. Both are installed 2 feet from the end of these reflectors. These reflectors are normally installed with the 2 to 3 inch overlap, ensuring that screws associated with the side reflector go to the respective top reflectors. On the side reflector support foot, use a Tech screw at the end of the foot to lock the reflector in and keep it from coming out of the foot. There is no need to screw the side reflector together at the overlaps. Tightening the wing nuts on the side reflector supports, you can tap them with a hammer to square up the reflectors as necessary. The vacuum pump ships partially unassembled. Take great care as the impeller is balanced and fragile. Placing the gasket on the scroll and then placing the motor frame with the impeller down into the scroll and bolting down with approximate 40 foot-pounds of torque. The scroll discharge is bottom right or bottom left only. You can install 1 bolt on the bottom through the gasket. Then place the inlet plate down over the bolt and put the remaining bolts in and torque approximately 40 foot-pounds. Make sure the 1/8 inch barb fitting is on top of the inlet. You have to remove the 1/8 inch plug and install the brass barb fitting. The 1 inch hole in the bottom of the inlet must be plugged with a 1 inch MPT Galvy plug. When installing the vacuum pump to the system, make sure the vacuum pump is aligned with the pipe. Sway bracing can be put on before or after the reflectors are on. Drill or wrap around the 1/8 inch wire at the purlins at a 45-degree angle. Use 2 wire clips per end. The other end needs to go through the lower spring hook after the turnbuckle. One thing to remember, this system can expand 3 inches in 80 feet, so we must allow for that on the sway cables going with the system or parallel with the heat exchanger. Having the perpendicular sway cables taut and having the cable going with the pipe with slack so that the system can expand. The cable extending over the end of the pipe can be tight. As this system heats up, it will expand into them, putting slack into them and tightening up on the one you had slack in running over the system. The system can expand 3 inches in 80 feet. Combustion air installation. Having the spiral ductwork 1.5 to 2 feet off center of the heat exchanger, 2 feet above the system, should allow for combustion chamber air flex without the need for a flux duct hanger. Having the spiral ductwork away from the heat exchanger at the same elevation, we will need a hanger on the flex to support the weight of the flex as it can pull on the filter housing at the burner. All ductwork must be sealed tight with duct sealer, as it will be tested to hold 1.5 inches of vacuum. If noted on the plans, insulation can be required. The filter box that Overhead Products provides must be installed around 8 feet off the floor for easy access. Overhead Products provides saddle taps and the flexes with clamps to the system. The gas piping at the burners must be as detail shows, no exceptions. The gas flex must be in the shape of a C. Reason for this is the expansion and contraction of the system. The flex must work evenly. If elevated line pressure in the shop, 2 or 5 psi, regulators will be supplied. These regulators are installed as shown and will not require a vent. The pressure switch box and pneumatic tubing is supplied by Overhead Products. The switch box will be located close to the heating control panel. There will be low voltage connections between the HCP and the switch box. There will be a conduit from the switch box to the ceiling to protect the pneumatic tubing. The pneumatic tubing is supported with zip ties supplied with the system. We supply 2 brass taps, one for each vacuum pump and one for each combustion air system. Overhead Products will supply brass tees to split the pneumatic tubing if we have multiple switch boxes using the same combustion air system. The pneumatic tubing from the vacuum pump barb fitting to the nylon pneumatic tubing will require a minimum foot-long length of silicone hose supplied with system. The HCP heating control panel must be labeled with HCP and the appropriate number, and the panel with the circuit number. The details shows the wiring for each panel, and their riser detail shows the pipes needed for wiring to the heating systems. Burners are supplied with U-ground pigtail. We want to use this for a service disconnect. If we need to make it a little longer, not a big deal. Easiest way to achieve this is with a strain relief at the junction box up above. Then SO cord may be zip tied to the burner hanger chain with a female U-ground plug cord end. Again, these heating systems can expand, and slacken the power wiring is a must at the burner. All thermostat wiring must be in separate conduit, no matter what wire insulation is used. This control panel is very susceptible to AC induction on the low voltage side, causing major issue requiring new piping to stats. You're now ready to go through the installation checklist provided in the submittal. The super and the installing contractor should go through this complete list. This list should be sent to Overhead Products. At that time, Overhead Products will work with the superintendent on site to schedule the testing and commissioning of the system. The contractor can start the system up by jumping each stat in each zone to ensure that the burners come on after 45 seconds with respective pumps. Checking the rotation of the pump, as it will create vacuum both directions. We need to verify that the impeller is rotating the same way as the arrow on the scroll. Any other questions on CoRayVac SF heating systems? Please call Overhead Products. Thank you for watching this video on the Overhead Products YouTube channel.